Hello and welcome. I'm Alex Darcel, and today I'm joined by Emilia Geren. Emilia, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. What about you?
Not bad. All right, so before we get into the episode, we're going to get to know you. Just some quick little icebreakers
Okay.
to help warm you up. So first of all, what is your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject used to be science, but I don't take any science classes this year, so I'm gonna have to say probably English.
English. Interesting, because normally it's like the science and math, and
Yeah,
then the English and history, but you're just a combination of everything, I guess.
yeah.
Wow. So then favorite ice cream flavor.
Cookie dough every single time. Every single time. Vanilla ice cream, cookie dough with it. Never change.
Never changed. And is that like Grater's cookie dough or like whippy dip or just
Anything.
anything?
Anywhere I go, always cookie dough.
All right. Interesting. All right. So getting into the episode now. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Obviously, you had not the quote unquote typical upbringing. You grew up speaking two languages. And can you kind of tell me how that was and how the transition to Mason, however many years ago that was, kind of went?
Yeah, so growing up, culture was definitely a big part of my life. I grew up knowing very well that I was both, American and then Mexican, half Mexican. And when I was in kindergarten, my parents put me in a dual language program.
Hmm.
So the way that it worked was every year after kindergarten, more percentage was English. So I started off 90% Spanish, 10% English, and then it went to like 80-20, 70-30 until I was in, I think fifth grade was my last year of it.
Hmm.
Um, so I definitely grew up with people that were also, Mexican American. Culture was a huge part of our classroom. I grew up learning things twice because I had to learn them in both languages.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember my parents, mostly my dad, because he didn't speak Spanish before this. He was kind of worried that I was gonna, like lose my English skills, but
Hmm.
English is actually one of my best subjects now,
Yeah.
so definitely proved him wrong.
So did you grow up like was your first language was it kind of like both? I guess like growing up did your dad speak to you in English and your mom speak to you in Spanish or how did that kind of work?
Yeah, so I grew up, my first language is English, but I learned them kind of simultaneously. Like I
Hmm.
said, my dad doesn't speak Spanish, so my mom would always talk to me in Spanish. I had, Spanish picture books, Spanish TV shows. I would watch Dora in Spanish.
Yeah.
um, so it was really kind of both at the same time.
So did Dora teach you English or Spanish? How did that work?
Dora actually kind of taught me both because instead of, saying the words in she would be like book libra book, she'd be like
Okay.
it's it would be different.
Hmm.
So she told me both.
That's pretty cool. Um, yeah, definitely the reverse of what a lot of kids grew up with. So kind of you moved from Chicago to Mason in sixth grade, I believe.
Yes.
And so can you kind of talk to me how that transition went? Because you said fifth grade was your last year of kind of 50-50 Spanish and English. So did you kind of come in? Was it like a different like cultural aspect or something like that?
Yeah, so I moved after my sixth grade year. So in Illinois, the way that it works is middle school is sixth through eighth.
Hmm.
So I already had a year of the whole middle school experience when I came here. So it was a bit easier in that sense, and I had already moved in Illinois, like a few miles away. So I was already used to moving. I was already used to the whole middle school thing. I think my biggest issue was that I knew absolutely no one.
Hmm.
So people in Mason, they're definitely like aware of the whole culture aspect, but it's in a different sense where people are of different cultures and you get to learn other people's backstories and other people's like how they grew up and how they do things at home, and it's definitely a lot different than it was in Illinois. um, it was definitely culturally diverse there, but it's more so here, so I got to adjust to that and learn about different people.
Hmm. So, just one final question on that kind of aspect. Do you celebrate, traditional Mexican holidays as well as, American? And like, because you said your dad, I'm assuming, grew up in the States and your mom
Yeah.
is from Mexico. So, like, do you celebrate both? Like, how often do you see family, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, so we're definitely a lot closer to my mom's family, which is my Mexican side of the family, than my
Hmm.
dad's. So I do celebrate. My mom's birthday is actually on Cinco de Mayo, so
Oh,
it's kind of like a double meaning.
yeah.
Mexican Independence Day, Dia de los Tres Reyes, which is Three Kings Day, where you put your
Hmm.
shoes out, they put candy in it. We definitely do celebrate a lot of that. It's not as full fledged, just because we don't live necessarily near
Yeah.
a bunch of people that also celebrate the same ideas. But um, yeah, we do we celebrate pretty much everything.
Hmm. So, kind of taking, your heritage and that obviously being a big part of you, and another big part of you is soccer.
Hmm.
And you were on varsity for 3 years, I believe,
Yes.
starting as a sophomore.
Hmm.
Uh, can you talk to me a little bit about, how, moving to Mason and kind of like, learning the culture and stuff helped you to assimilate into the soccer group? Because, a lot of these girls come up, playing soccer from,
Hmm.
say, soccer all the way to, you know, varsity soccer. So can you tell me how, I guess, how your experience, led you into where you
Yeah.
are now?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I was new. I didn't know anyone. In seventh and eighth grade, I was kind of shy. So coming into freshman year, preseason, having to do all these runs with all these different people, I definitely encountered the fact that a lot of them had grown up together. They all knew each other. I had to kind of like introduce myself over and over again to people that
Hmm.
didn't have to introduce themselves to each other. So it was a little bit hard, but they did a great job of just making everyone feel welcome. Like there was another girl who had just moved from another state, I think, and she like we were both friends and like we both felt super welcome there.
Hmm.
But as I got through the program and people got to know me better and I got to know them, it was definitely culture's a big part. Because my grandparents come to visit a lot, and I don't call them grandma and grandpa. I call them abuelita and abuelito,
Hmm.
and a lot of people find it really funny the way I say that, just because I say it in Spanish.
Hmm.
But they have amazing food. Like my abuelita is so good at cooking, and we have team dinners
Oh,
before we have team
yeah.
dinners before every game. And so everyone's favorite team dinner was my Mexican night, where my abuelita would come and she would cook some homemade authentic Mexican tacos, and I would make my homemade flour tortillas, and it was really fun. So it definitely gave me kind of like a way in, because I'm
Hmm.
like different than them, and a lot of people like to learn stuff like that. So it was really fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I definitely have to try some of those
Yeah.
sometime.
Yep.
So kind of one final question. You talked about how um, people like see like the difference and they want to know more about it. Do you see that as like what can people do? For you, you're coming in. What can people do to respectfully learn and like how to treat without making you feel like more of an outsider?
Yeah, so that's definitely a hard line, because there are questions that people just don't ask,
Hmm.
and there are things that people just don't talk about. But for me, I'm pretty open. So if people ask, I'm willing to give my story and like give my experiences on things and give my takes as someone that's, not from Mason, only second generation in America. So it's definitely like a hard line, and not all people are like this when you ask them about their
Hmm.
culture. Some people are more reserved, some people are a lot more open. But I think just ask, and if it comes off wrong, we can move on from it. I'll still answer the question. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So kind of where are you looking from here? Obviously, you had a devastating injury during soccer. For those of you that don't know, it was a ACL tear,
MCL.
MCL,
Hmm.
and so you've handled it, very as Mr. Connor, our mentor, would say, very as a good sport. And so that's definitely something to see. Well, soccer is obviously a huge part of your life.
Hmm.
It's not everything,
Hmm.
and that kind of speaks to a lot of athletes. So where do you go from here? Are you hoping to pursue soccer in college and you know stuff like that, or?
Yeah. So I want to be a teacher. I know that much. I do want to pursue soccer in college, but it's definitely a little bit harder now.
Hmm.
But yeah, my goal was for the rest of the season. And if I can't be out there, I'm gonna be the loudest person on the bench.
Hmm.
I'm gonna make the most of everything that I can while I still have it. So yeah, I think that's something that will definitely like carry over into college, because you never know when something's gonna happen. Like that's definitely the same attitude I'm having with recruiting too.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned a teacher. Is there a specific subject you want to teach since you're Miss Know It All, I guess. English, science, math, singing.
Yeah.
Amelia's a member of the orchestra,
The
the
choir.
choir.
Yep.
Excuse me. The choir, and from what I hear, a very talented singer. So, kind of, where are you going? Where you want to go to teacher? Is it like
Mhm.
everything, or what kind of grade level?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for the compliment. I am leaning more towards bilingual education.
Mhm,
But if I don't do that, I'll probably end up like later elementary, so like fourth, fifth, maybe sixth grade.
mhm.
Probably a lot more of like the English social studies route.
Yeah. Well, wherever life takes you, whether that's soccer, teaching, singing, being a Broadway star, anything like that. We wish you the best, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for
And
having me.
be sure to tune in next week as we explore more of the stories here around Mason High School.